go live. I think.
Is that the person watching?
Let's see if we're going live. We should be going live. Yep, I think we're live now. So let's just set ourselves, pin that to the top of the profile. And are we ready, Georgie?
Yeah.
Are we ready? Hello, everyone. Hopefully you're able to hear this. You can see we're trying to be a little bit more organised today, aren't we, Georgie? Come and sit here. So let's have a look here. Let's say hello. Say hi to everyone.
Hello, everyone.
What have you been doing this morning? Great Fire of London, wasn't it? Learning about the great.
Were working about the Great Fire of London.
Yeah, exactly. But now it's story time, isn't it?
Yep.
So.
And also, welcome to Wind in the Willows.
Welcome to Wind in the Willows. Exactly. Right, here we go. Now let's have a look. So what I've done is hopefully you can follow on because I'm going to try and share the pages. There we go. How does that look? Okay, what we're up to. I think we were up to Toadie was splashing about in the water, wasn't he? So let's see. Where were we? Let's see. He'll be out of that boat in a minute if he rolls like that, said the rat, sitting down again. Of course he will, chuckled the otter. Did I ever tell you that good story about Toad and the lock keeper? It happened this way. Toad. An errant mayfly swerved unsteadily athwart the current in the intoxicated fashion affected by young blonde. Let's put that paper away. Sorry, guys. There's a little bit of paper here rustling, so I'll put that over there. Young bloods of mayflies seeing life. A swirl of water and a cloop. The mayfly was visible no more. Neither was the otter. The mole looked down. The voice was still in his ears, but the turf whereon he had sprawled was clearly vacant. Not an otter to be seen as far as the distant horizon. But again there was a streak of bubbles on the surface of the river. The rat hummed a tune, and the mole recollected that animal etiquette forbade any sort of comment on the sudden disappearance of one's friends at any moment, for any reason, or no reason whatsoever. Well, said the rat, I suppose we ought to get moving. I wonder which one of us should better pick up the luncheon basket. He did not speak as if he was frightfully eager for the treat. Oh, please let me, said the mole. So of course the rat let him. Packing the basket was not quite as pleasant work as unpacking the basket. It never is. But the mole was bent on enjoying everything, and although just when he had got the basket packed and strapped up tightly, he saw a plate staring up at him from the grass, and when the job had been done again, the rat pointed out a fork, which anyone ought to have seen, and last of all, behold, the mustard pot, which he'd been sitting on without knowing it. Still, somehow, the thing got finished at last, without much loss of temper. The afternoon sun was getting low as the rat sculled gently homewards in a dreamy mood, murmuring poetry things over to himself, and not paying much attention to the mole. But the mole was very full of lunch and self-satisfaction and pride, and already quite at home in the boat, or so he thought. There they are. You see them in the boat there?
Yeah, where's the mole?
There's the mole there, and that's the rat there.
Where's the otter?
The otter, he splashed away, remember?
Oh, yeah.
And the mole was getting a bit restless besides, and presently he said, Ratty, please, I want to row now. The rat shook his head with a smile. Not yet, my young friend, he said. Wait till you've had a few lessons. It's not as easy as it looks. The mole was quite quiet for a minute or two, but he began to feel more and more jealous of Rat, sculling so strongly and so easily along, and his pride began to whisper that he could do it every bit as well. He jumped up and seized the sculls, and suddenly that the rat, who was gazing out over the water and saying more poetry things to himself, was taken by surprise and fell backwards off his seat and with his legs in the air for a second time, while the triumphant mole took his place and grabbed the sculls with entire confidence. "Stop it! Stop it, you silly ass!" cried the rat from the bottom of the boat. "You can't do it! You'll have us over!" The mole flung his sculls back with a flourish and made a great dig at the water. He missed the surface altogether. His legs flew up above his head, and he found himself lying on the top of the prostrate rat. Greatly alarmed, he made a grab at the side of the boat, and the next moment, sploosh! Over went the boat, and he found himself struggling in the water. Oh my, how cold the water was, and oh, how very wet it felt. How it stung his how it stung his ears as he went down, down, down. How bright and welcome the sun looked as he rose to the surface, coughing and spluttering. How black was his despair when he felt himself sinking again. Then a firm paw grabbed him by the back of his neck. It was the rat, and he was evidently laughing. The mole could feel him laughing right down his arm and through his paw, and so into the mole's neck. Can you see Ratty pulling the mole out? Silly mole, right?
Yeah.
The rat got hold of the skull and shoved it under the mole's arm. Then he did the same to the other side of him, and, swimming behind, propelled the helpless animal into the shore, hauled him out, and set him down on the bank, a squishy, pulpy, lumpy mess of misery. When the rat had rubbed him down a bit and wrung some of the wet out of him, he said, "Now then, old fellow, trot up and down the towing path as hard as you can, till you're warm and dry again, while I'll dive for the luncheon basket." So the dismal mole, wet without and ashamed within, trotted about till fairly dry, while the rat plunged into the water again, recovering the boat, righting her, and made her fast, fetched his floating property to shore by degrees, and finally dived successfully for the luncheon basket and struggled to land with it. When all was ready for a start once more, the mole, limp and dejected, took his seat at the stern of the boat, and as they set off, he said in a low voice, broken with emotion, "Ratty, my generous friend, I'm very sorry indeed for my foolish and ungrateful conduct. My heart quite fails me when I think how I might have lost that beautiful luncheon basket. Indeed, I have been a complete ass, and I know it. Well, will you overlook it this once and forgive me, and let things go on as before?" "That's all right, bless you," responded the rat cheerfully. "What's a little wet to a water rat? I'm more in the water than out of it most days. Don't you think any more about it. And look here, I really think if you had better come and stop with me for a little time. It's very plain and rough, you know, not like Toad's house at all. But you haven't seen that yet. Still, I can make you comfortable, and I'll teach you to row and to swim, and you'll soon be as handy on the water as any of us." The mole was so touched by his kind manner of speaking that he could find no voice to answer him, and he had to brush away a tear or two from the back with the back of his paw. But the rat kindly looked in the other direction, and presently the mole's spirits revived again, and he was even able to give some straight talk to a couple of moorhens who were sniggering to each other about his bedraggled appearance. When they got home, the rat had made a bright fire in the parlour and planted the mole in an armchair in front of it, having fetched down a dressing gown and slippers for him, and told him river stories till supper time. Very thrilling stories they were too to an earth-dwelling animal like the mole. Stories about weirs and sudden floods, leaping pike and steamers that flung hard bottles, and at least bottles were clearly flung and from steamers, so presumably by them, and about herons and how particular they were, about whom they spoke to, and about adventures down the drains, and night fishing with otter, or excursions afar with badger. Supper was a most cheerful meal, but very shortly afterwards a terribly sleepy mole had to be escorted upstairs by his considerate host to the best bedroom, where he soon laid his head on his pillow in great peace and contentment, knowing that his new-found friend, the river, was lapping the sill of his window. This day was only the first of many similar ones for the emancipated mole, each of them longer and fuller of interest as the ripening summer moved onwards. He learnt to swim and to row, and enter into the joy of running water, and with his ear to the reed stems he caught, at intervals, something of what the wind went whispering so constantly among them. And can you see here, Georgie? See, we've got the rat and the mole sitting in front of the fire. We've got the tea going on, and there's the mole going up into. Yeah, that's right. He's got his lamp there. So, I think that's enough for today. Did you enjoy that, buddy? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Let's see if there's anyone's been saying anything to us on Twitter. Let's have a look.
Can I just go to Mummy's playtime?
In a minute. Hold on a second. We're going to have a look at Twitter first of all. Oh, it's gone a bit funny. Let's see if we can get.
I'm just going to hang around with Mummy.
Well, hang on. We're going to see if people have written to us first of all. Then you want to see if people have written to us? I guess. I think we should. I think it's probably a good idea, actually. There we go. Let's see what we've got here. Okay. Let's go over here. Thank you, everyone who's written. Oh, look at that. So we haven't had any feedback on the story yet, but we would like to hear from you. Georgie, did you enjoy the story?
Yes.
What was your favourite bit?
I don't know.
Was it when Mole took over and crashed everyone into the water?
Yeah.
Did you like that? He was a silly mole.
Yeah.
Do you sometimes get a bit like that and think that you can do things that you can't?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then get a bit cross?
Yeah.
We need to start thinking, don't we?
Yeah.
Yeah, so anyone, thank you for everyone for joining us. I hope you enjoyed today's Wind in the Willows, and we'll come again tomorrow, won't we?
Yeah.
With part 3.
Part 3.
Part 3. You going to say goodbye to everyone?
Bye, everyone.
Going to give them a wave? Look, there you go. Okay. Bye-bye.